SNESdrunk.
Hello and welcome to part 10 of this video series where I pretend that a bunch of arcade games could have conceivably been ported to the Super Nintendo, but they weren't, probably because they simply couldn't from a technical standpoint. But that won't stop me from doing one of my favorite things, which is talking about a bunch of random-ass arcade games. But first, I want to take a minute to talk about the original RoboCop arcade game, and I know this game did get ports to the NES and Game Boy, along with a ton of home computer systems, but I wanted an excuse to talk about this one because it's gotta be the loudest arcade cabinet of all time.
You are under arrest. You are under arrest.
As a kid growing up in the late 80s and early 90s, when you walked into an arcade, you were guaranteed to hear three things: Colossus's roar, the gunfire in Terminator 2, and the intro to RoboCop.
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law.
This intro would absolutely blast through the speakers and cut through the arcade like a knife. I know the home computer version of this game was crazy popular overseas, becoming a bestseller in Japan, Hong Kong, and the UK, where it thrived on the ZX Spectrum, so if that's how you originally played this game, you'd do well to check out the original arcade edition, if only because it's a lot faster, a lot more colorful, obviously, and you occasionally get to use, what is this, a sniper rifle that shoots missiles? Sure, I'll sign up for some of that. And of course, you'd be treated to how uncompromisingly loud this game is. Alright, let's move on to some arcade games that I had no idea existed until recently, like Dyna Gear, developed and released by Sammy in 1993, and man, if you like yourself some 90s-ass ridiculousness, there's a lot of it crammed into this one. We got obnoxiously bright colors, a time travel story that has you fighting dinosaurs, you got these Mortal Kombat coins, and of course it's got your classic absurd arcade difficulty. Some of the boss fights in this game are laughably unfair, to the point that I can't help but admire the blatant attempt to gobble up quarters. This game is mostly good though. Your main character has 4 different weapons he can pick up, and the best one by far is this ball and chain hammer thing that you whip around. It's like you're a super-powered Rygar. Dyna Gear is a fun time, just expect to hit a wall about 30 minutes into your playthrough, and expect to spend a lot of virtual quarters. Another arcade action platformer is Black Tiger, made way back in 1987 by Capcom, and for the time period, this is an impressive game. It's a little bit of a blend between 2 other Capcom titles, Magic Sword and Ghosts and Goblins. The structure and the item collection is reminiscent of Magic Sword, while the weapons and platforming will remind you of Ghosts and Goblins, as will the difficulty. This is another game that will take you forever to beat. Well, by arcade standards anyway. There's 8 long levels featuring a ton of really tricky and difficult jumps, and some stupidly tough boss fights. But Black Tiger has that old Capcom polish to it that makes it well worth playing today. Next, we've got FixEight, made by Toaplan in 1992, and this is a top-down shooter similar to stuff like Commando, only this one's got a lot more weapons and a lot of really great-looking enemies and boss fights. If the gameplay and graphics seem kinda sorta familiar, it's because this game was made by the same folks behind shoot-'em-ups like Truxton, Twin Hawk, and Batsugan. Only in this game, you're a dude on the ground, so you gotta deal with some platforming and the floor falling beneath you. Ugh. Still, this is a fun and fast-paced playthrough that'll help you kill 30 minutes or so. Let's talk beat-em-ups, and I love talking beat-em-ups because there's seriously just dozens and dozens and dozens of these games that all might as well be the exact same thing. Just file them under Final Fight Ripoff. Take this game, 64th Street, A Detective Story, a fantastic title because all this detective does is kick the crap out of people. Instead of Hagar and Cody, we've got Rick and Alan. Yes, that's right, they named their characters after the one-armed drummer of Def Leppard. But the greatness doesn't stop there. Remember when I said RoboCop was one of the loudest arcade cabinets out there? Well, this one isn't far behind. What kind of a noise is that? Sounds like someone with a mouthful of food just stubbed their toe. You've also got enemies ripped off from Final Fight and Double Dragon, and you've got all the usual beat-em-up levels like this one here, where you've got a dude who dutifully continues to drive this bus to your destination even after you destroy this dude who's clearly not damned from Final Fight. Yes, there's nothing like a great detective story where all you do is throw dudes into walls and dent their skulls with a lead pipe. Another hopelessly generic beat-em-up is Silent Dragon, made by Taito in 1992, where you can either play as a buffed-out Cobra Commander, or as a Joe Fighter, Lee Kung Fu, or Sunny GI. For what it's worth, this game does do the standard boilerplate beat-em-up formula pretty well. The graphics look great and kind of remind me of World Heroes a bit, and there's plenty of weapons and gimmicks you can use, like a detonator hooked up to a bunch of dynamite. This game cuts a quick pace, too. One moment you're fighting in the middle of a Bloomingdale's, before you're in the middle of the jungle fighting whatever the hell these things are. You got construction workers cheering you on, apparently knowing that they don't have to fix any of the structural damage that you're causing everywhere. It's a good time. And just because I can't resist, here's another paint-by-numbers beat-em-up called Legionnaire. And if you were hoping this game would be about the disease, you might be disappointed, although these guys do look like they suffer from diabetes. This one was made by TAD Corporation in 1992, and it features 5 levels of blandness where you fight bosses named Big Man, and Dragon, and Tiger. This game really couldn't be more average and unremarkable if it tried. I know that kind of defeats the purpose of a video like this, but I really can't help myself sometimes. This is just pure bored button-mashing goodness. One of those arcade cabinets that, if it was in my neighborhood, I'd probably play it all the time and I'd probably love it. But now, it's just the next thing off the assembly line. I just like talking about games like this, that's all. Let's get back into more substantive territory with shoot-em-ups, and here's a good one from Capcom called Echo Fighters. One thing I really love about shoot-em-ups from this era is that they're not shy about making everything look as insane as possible, even to the point where you run into some significant slowdown. Yes, that's right, even arcade games can have crippling, unpredictable slowdown come and go, and it makes my inner 10-year-old want to shout, "See? Even arcade games can have slowdown, it's not just the Super Nintendo!" Despite that, though, this game is really impressive. Remember, Capcom also made Yuan Squadron, and this game kinda plays sorta similarly, although conceptually it's a lot closer to Gradius. Still, if you're into horizontal shoot-em-ups, you'd do well to check this one out. Sticking with shooters, here's a fun rail shooter called Wild Pilot, made by Jalico in 1992, and right away you get a shot of all the enemies you have to defeat, and what in the hell is going on here? We got Doc Brown, Kevin Costner, Bridget Nielsen from Rocky IV. Who was that? Dana White with hair in the middle there? Anyway, I love rail shooters like this because they just attack your senses. It's just a non-stop thrill ride where you're somehow blowing up battleships with a machine gun, you're gunning down helicopters and biplanes till you end up in the middle of the high desert where you approach the hideout of the final boss, who's apparently early 80s Burt Reynolds. Hey man, works for me. This one's only about a 20-minute playthrough, but it's a great time. Of course, since this is a video about 80s and 90s arcade games, that means I gotta talk about one-on-one fighting games, and just like the beat-em-up genre, there's about 1 million of those too, although at least some fighting games do actually try and throw in an extra gimmick to keep it from being too generic, like the game Knuckle Heads, for instance, made by Namco in 1992. The gimmick here is that you can fight 2-on-1, and that can be 1 player versus 2 computer-controlled opponents, 2 players versus 1 computer-controlled opponent, or 1 player versus 2 players. The gameplay itself, yeah, it's what you'd expect. If you've played stuff like World Heroes or Fighter's History, then you get the general idea here. But since it was developed by Namco, this game is well made and easy to pick up and get the hang of right away, and the 3-player gimmick works really well. Here's a fighting game with a title that leaves little to the imagination called Time Killers. Like, yeah, that's what we're all here to do, play some old arcade games and kill some time. And holy crap, you just cut off that dude's arms! I was not expecting this level of violence based on the looks of this one. But yeah, Time Killers is Mortal Kombat influenced rather than Street Fighter influenced, and it's actually pretty fun, if nothing else than for the fact that you can continue fighting even if you get a limb chopped off. It's just a flesh wound! This game is hilarious. The violence is cartoony instead of gory, so when someone gets disemboweled like this, it's hard not to laugh. And then they show up on the next screen with their portrait showing their head cut off. You gotta love that. This is a really fun one that's worth playing with a second player. It's a good time. Finally, we've got Slapshot, made by Taito in 1994, and this game is like a combination of air hockey and windjammers. You have 6 characters to choose from, like the American Billy here, who gives off big-time Sonic Blastman vibes. You got a posh British guy named Stuart, as well as a Brazilian dude with Lionel Richie's hair from 1984. I like games like this. They're always a good time with the second player, and the gameplay here is solid, the physics are consistent, and there doesn't appear to be too much arcade cheapness here if you decide to go it alone in a single-player campaign. Plus, I mean, I can't help but love the loser screens here, like not Chun-Li looking like she just got dumped during homeroom. If you're looking for a little bit of a different one-on-one versus arcade game, then you should try this one out. Okay, and that is all for now. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Ready, go! Go!